We're going to be doing a review on brain plasticity, talking a little bit about what we learned this semester. And one of the reasons why we're doing this review is we're going to be doing a post-assessment soon. And in this post-assessment, I'm going to ask you the same question that we asked you in September, and that is to describe an example of brain plasticity in action, describe the value of a computer program like Brain HQ to brain plasticity, and to tell us some ways that you experience brain plasticity in your everyday life. So in this presentation, by going through some of the things we've learned, you might be able to do better on your post-assessment. So here we go. First of all, let's talk about brain plasticity. What is brain plasticity? Well, brain plasticity is the capacity of the brain to change with learning. Now, in order for the change to occur, there has to be some type of stimulating activity in the neurons. So this means that brain plasticity is not something that takes place passively. Rather, it's something that you set out to do. I'm going to improve my brain, and you work at making these improvements. The activities must be rigorous and engaging. Now, there are activities that you can do on your own to improve your brain plasticity, such as playing music, taking challenging classes, and learning a new skill. Why is this important to us? Well, brain plasticity gives us a little bit of control over how we age. In the past, we knew that as we aged, we experienced some type of cognitive decline. But with brain plasticity, it tells us that we can slow down this cognitive decline and in some cases even reverse it, building new neurons at any age. During our semester, we've had several readings that have talked about real-life examples of brain plasticity. One of the most famous studies are those of the London cab drivers. Now, cab drivers in London, before GPS, had to have a really good feel of the streets of London. And of course, the streets of London, there's lots of different ways to get around. You know, it's an older city. There's lots of construction. And so the cab drivers would have to know not only how to get to a certain location, but also all the different alternate routes. If there was a traffic jam, they would have to know how to get around a different way. As a result, London cab drivers when they were studied in a research project, they actually found that they had a larger hippocampus. And this is the area of the brain where memory is stored. And this is probably because they had to constantly negotiate constantly changing routes. So this is one of the first major studies that demonstrate that our brain is influenced by our lifestyle. Other studies have talked about music. Learning a musical instrument showed increases in brain size. Bilingual speakers have a larger parietal cortex, which is part of the brain, and that is probably from having to think of the different words in the different languages, so having to think in different ways. And then if you were fortunate enough to begin to learn a musical instrument before the age of 7, you are still experiencing the lasting benefits on brain plasticity. That was an important piece of research that came out. Now, there is something known as negative brain plasticity. We like to think about improving our brain, but you can also take your brain in the opposite direction. And this is when you practice behaviors which are not healthy for your brain. Some of the examples include disuse. So, for example, you're watching TV at night and you're really tired and you don't really feel like concentrating, so you turn on the subtitles and you just read the subtitles. Well, as pleasant as that may be, that's negative because what you're doing is you're training your brain that it doesn't have to listen with its ears. All it has to do is look. And that actually you're rewarded a little bit because you hear what's going on. So your brain continues to think, oh, I'm going to continue to use this type of behavior. And what you're doing is, yes, your brain is increasing, but in a negative way. A sedentary lifestyle, just sitting around. Yeah, well, you know, it's easy to sit around and, you know, you might enjoy sitting around and having a little bit of chocolate or something in the process, but there's very little stimulation involved in that, and there are less connections being made, and you're sort of rewarding yourself for not moving. And again, that is an example of negative brain plasticity. As we get older, we don't always like to do the more difficult thing. We want to look for easier solutions. Well, once again, that's known as negative learning, and that can develop your brain in the opposite direction. So all of these things, not only are they not good for your positive brain growth, they're also taking you in another direction, and it will be more difficult to come back to ground zero. So the result is try to avoid these behaviors so that you won't experience negative brain plasticity. Now, there are ways to improve your brain plasticity in a positive way. Any activities that improve your brain plasticity are activities that are novel, they're new, they're exciting, they're engaging, you're interested in what's going on, you want to continue to learn more. They're rewarding. You feel success when you do these activities. You enjoy doing these activities, and they're meaningful. They mean something to you. They're important to your lives. All of these types of activities will increase the connections within your brain. They'll increase the neuromodulator release, which is when several neurotransmitters release together. You get a big feeling throughout your body, and that's what's known as neuromodulators. And then they'll improve your brain plasticity. So look for these components to a nice, healthy activity for your brain. Now, cognitive reserve, we talked about at one point. Cognitive reserve is a theory. And this theory suggests that the more you learn, the more brain growth there will be, and it will be reserved so that if you start to experience any type of cognitive decline by having learned a lot in the past and used your brain, you'll have some areas to fall back on. So we learned about people that had Alzheimer's that did not demonstrate the symptoms as other people did. And oftentimes that was because of what they had learned or what they had done in their lives that had created this cognitive reserve. So it's just a theory, but it's a positive theory. It suggests that you do have control over your brain plasticity. By learning more, by engaging yourself more, you might have more reserve if there were to be some sort of a neurological problem. Now, this cognitive reserve is contrasted with another theory called brain reserve. And with brain reserve, that says you have a maximum capacity of brain and over which there is no improvement. Well, that's kind of depressing when you think about it. So the cognitive reserve is not only a very real possibility, it is a positive theory, and it gives us some hope that we do have control over our aging. So it sort of tells you that you want to continue taking these classes and you want to continue learning because that might help protect your brain as we get older. Physical activity. Research has pretty much agreed that physical activity does increase plasticity in the brain, increases those neuronal connections, gives a sense of reward to us. The area which is directly influenced by exercise is a hippocampus. That's where your memory is stored. Dancing is especially beneficial because it requires both your body and your brain, that coordinated effort. And then even modest exercise, such as walking at an easy pace, has been shown to improve cognition. So continue to move about in order to improve your brain plasticity. Music. Music is incredible. Music changes your mood. You wonder why that benefits your brain. Well, according to one of our readings, which I thought was fascinating, when you listen to music, of course, you have pleasure. And part of the pleasure comes from anticipating what notes are going to come next. And when those notes arrive, your brain releases those neurotransmitters saying, isn't that wonderful? Yes, that is, that is. But every so often, a strange note pops in. And interestingly enough, that also releases neurotransmitters because there's your novel thing right there. You didn't expect it. It was unexpected, but it was kind of cool. So that increases your brain plasticity as well. So listening to music is very, very good for the brain, and will make you feel good and good for the whole mood, not just for some things. So music is very good for the brain. Okay, now the Brain HQ activities, what do they do to affect your brain plasticity? Well, overall, they release neurotransmitters. Just by each of the different activities that you do, it designs to release one or another of the neurotransmitters, and these will affect your plasticity. So, for example, memory activities release dopamine, which is good for many different things. Attention activities that you do on Brain HQ release acetylcholine. When we do the Brain HQ activities, we are working to improve our processing speed. Well, this improves the network of neurons within your brain, and that, of course, increases brain plasticity. Our activities also on Brain HQ also improve efficiency, which influences brain plasticity. The people skills that you do on Brain HQ, that requires paying attention, listening to details, and again, you release acetylcholine for that. And then finally, the intelligence activities will encourage building memory skills, which develop mental control skills, which increases your neuronal network. So each of the activities that you do on Brain HQ may release a different neurotransmitter, may stimulate a different area of the brain, might look for a different type of response from the brain, but all of these things together will increase your brain plasticity. So in conclusion, improving your brain plasticity, it's up to you. It's not something that's going to happen passively. You have to decide that this is something that you want to do. Choose activities that are rewarding, novel, engaging, and meaningful. Avoid disuse of the brain, avoid negative learning and the sedentary lifestyle, and then continue to participate in brain fitness activities that will further enhance your brain plasticity. Thanks for listening, and continue to participate with us in our classes. Bye-bye.